Hello, my name is Brian Hanks, the editor of Noose News and noosenews.com. As a service to our community, we are hosting videos with candidates in contested races this year. In this video, we are chatting with David Brantley, candidate for North Carolina Senate District 7. Mr. Brantley will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement and then have the opportunity to answer 6 questions, in which he will also have 2 minutes per question. Finally, he will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Brantley. Please make your opening statement.
Hello. As Brian said, I'm David Brantley. I have been a district court judge in your county for the past 21 years. I'm running for the Senate District 7 for Wayne and Lenoir counties. It's the first time in a long time that the district is contiguous. It's intact. All the voters of Wayne and all the voters of Lenoir County are going to be in this Senate District 7. I'm from Goldsboro. I have lived in Goldsboro since 1977. I went to Wake Forest University and Wake Forest Law School and came to Goldsboro to start my career and have been there ever since. Married to my wife of 35 years, Pam Smith Brantley. Have 3 children and 1 grandchild. My wife is a retired high school science teacher from Eastern Wayne. And amazingly, she retired and went to nursing school and became an RN, BSN through the nursing program at East Carolina, and now she's serving as a home health nurse with serving some patients in both Wayne and Lenoir counties and some surrounding counties. My father was a vocational agriculture teacher and principal, and my sister was also a teacher, so I certainly have an interest in education. I decided to run for this position rather than finish my term because I was not satisfied with some of the ways that the legislature was treating education, treating health care, and treating the court system. So friends of mine said, you can't keep complaining about it if you're not going to do something about it. So I decided to throw my name in the hat, and it's my desire to go to Raleigh and fight for the citizens of Wayne and Lenoir County to try to solve problems instead of going up there and doing partisan games. At the end of my career, I have no interest in going up there to do anything other than to be productive. And so I'd appreciate your consideration for this position.
Mr. Brantley, this is your first question. What do you consider the #1 issue facing District 7 over the next 4 years?
The issue that I think deals with the most people is going to be expanding Medicaid. Expanding Medicaid would do several things. One, it would improve the health of the citizens of Wayne and Lenoir counties, but it would also create jobs immediately. That the money that comes in to expand Medicaid, those jobs would go to many different healthcare positions, and they would have an immediate impact. It wouldn't be like trying to wait for some business to come in and hire different employees and wait for the business to pick up. This would be immediate because the healthcare needs are already present. It's a 90% match for monies, and the 10% amount that the citizens would pay in would be more than compensated by the income taxes created by the jobs that will be produced with that expansion of Medicaid. But most of all, right now, the hospitals in both Wayne and Lenoir have almost an 11% uncompensated cost. Like almost 11% of people aren't being able to pay. And so the other 89 or 90% of the citizens are picking up that cost. And so with that money, it would have a huge economic impact in this area as well, and possibly would reduce the insurance of a lot of the other citizens who do have insurance, or at least who don't have insurance or paying as they go. So it would have a huge impact both economically and for the health care of the citizens of this area.
Okay. Mr. Brantley, this is your second question. If elected, what would you do to help Eastern North Carolina be better prepared for hurricanes and the flooding that occurs after hurricanes?
I listened to the presentation a couple of weeks ago with Roger Dale. I've worked with Roger over the years, particularly being the chief district court judge, about when we close court because of the weather. And Roger gave us an update on the things that they did, and credit to him and the first responders in this area for what they did. But there was an article this past week that showed that if we were to do many things up front, we probably could save a lot of money rather than having to pay for the repair that's coming every year. We've had 2 500-year floods in the last 2 years. You need to mitigate some of these areas, that low-lying areas. I understand that many of those have been bought out since one of the other hurricanes, but we need to do something to make sure that we're not going to continue to have to move people out of these areas and go back into the same areas. We need to increase some of the tributaries so that we don't get this overflow. And clearly, there needs to be better coordination with the folks in Raleigh so that the Falls of the Neuse isn't letting floodwaters out when we already have a saturated area, so that it magnifies the rain that's already coming into this area. So I think there's plenty we can do to prepare for these better, because I believe they're going to continue to come.
Mr. Brantley, this is your third question. In your opinion, what is the most important thing a state senator does?
What a state senator does is represent the interests of his constituents, his or her constituents, in the area where they reside. For instance, spoken to the military affairs group in Goldsboro. It is going to be a primary responsibility of the senator to look after the needs of Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, and similarly the Transpark, because the Transpark, one of the reasons they got extra money from the military to help fund that was because it's a secondary base, or a secondary landing area for the plane. So it's a big economic engine for Wayne and Lenore counties to make sure that the interests of the base are protected. Clearly, Eastern North Carolina, Wayne, and Lenore counties have a huge agricultural base. It's probably the largest industry we have is agricultural. And so looking after the farmers of Eastern North Carolina is going to be a primary consideration for the senator from this area.
Mr. Brantley, this is your fourth question. How can Eastern North Carolina become more economically viable on the national and world stage?
I guess one of the reasons that the Transpark is here is to try to improve transport of agricultural products in and out of this area. So that's going to be another reason to continue to have good transportation. Interstate grade transportation allows us to have an ability to send products down to Morehead City and to Wilmington for shipment to overseas. So we have to have a good infrastructure in this area, good transportation system, to continue to be able to ship goods in and out of this area, and that's just something we need to continue to make progress on.
Mr. Brantley, this is your fifth question. What is the best thing about Eastern North Carolina, and why?
Well, certainly I've spent my whole life here, so I guess I'd have to say that that's what I've mostly known. I grew up in Johnston County. My parents are we're both from Nash County, and my children stayed in the Eastern North Carolina area, and so I've made this my home. We go to the beach frequently. I love this area. It's the tourism, the ease with which you're able to go to different parts of the state. It's just great. I don't know of any. I'd love to visit. I'd love to go to different parts of the country, but I always like to come home.
Okay, and Mr. Brantley, this is your sixth and final question. As a state senator, what would you do to improve racial harmony in Eastern North Carolina?
It seems to be significantly divided at present. I've tried to do it while I was in the court system by treating everybody fairly. You've got to let people realize that you're going to allow them to feel like that they've been treated fairly, and you do that on an individual basis. When you're running for a policy position and you're doing it on a larger scale, which is what it would be from a Senate position, you need to develop policies that show African Americans that you're going to treat them fairly. And the issue there is you're going to try to improve their living condition, where they live. You want to improve education, which is where they've been told that's the way they get ahead, is to get a good education, and not continue to do things that seem to be dividing the races. I've been in the court system for my entire career, for 41 years, and there have been some instances where there have been some racial incidents, but the communities have worked hard, in my opinion, to try to reduce those kinds of tensions, and that's what I'd like to continue to do as a senator. I know many people in the African American community, and we have a large number of African American police officers, deputy sheriffs. You got your sheriff here who's African American, and it's just demonstrating that you're willing to listen to their concerns and continue to seek their input so that they don't feel like they're left out of the process.
Thank you, Mr. Brantley. If you will, please make your closing statement.
As I said, I've been in the court system for my entire career. I would say I know a lot about the court system. I know a little bit about the educational process because of my wife's education and my father being in that business. So I'm certainly more focused in that area. But my whole career has been spent at listening to parties from different perspectives to try to resolve conflict. And that's one thing that we seem not to have enough of in the legislature. It seems like that there's just such division that they can't get along. If one guy has a good idea, the other guy votes against it because it's from another party. I think we need to go up there and start listening to each other and try to resolve problems rather than engaging in partisan games, and that's what I intend to do. I've said to folks, I've had a great career, I've enjoyed what I do. I don't plan to go up there and listen to a lot of partisan bickering, because if that's all I'm going to listen to, I've got other things to do.
Okay. Again, thank you for taking the time to join us, Mr. Brantley. Early voting begins Wednesday, October the 17th, and runs through noon on Saturday, November the 3rd. Election Day is Tuesday, November the 6th. Thank you for watching this. Please feel free to share this video so Lenore County will be well informed about the election. Come back to newsnews.com throughout the election season, as we will be continuing to educate you, the voter.